well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam and Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I am so glad you're with us on the program today. We're going to be talking with Michael Schwartz from the San Diego County gun owners in just a minute or two. The county supervisors holding a vote yesterday during their regular meeting about whether or not to endorse California Governor Gavin Newsom's proposed 28th Amendment, which would, of course, negate the Second Amendment, right? That's not the way the governor describes it, but yeah, it would enshrine a host of anti-gun provisions into our Constitution. This non-binding resolution meant to show support for the governor's agenda, and it failed. Yeah, we talked with Michael just after that vote was held. We'll talk more. You'll hear that conversation with Michael coming up here in just a minute. Before we get to that, however, there is unfortunately something we need to talk about first. Joe Biden's America and how it's crushing us. You've got companies laying off tens of thousands of workers, one after the other. Americans working two jobs just to get by. Inflation pushing hardworking families to the brink. Just look at the price of lunch meat next time you go to the grocery store. And a digital dollar could be coming down the pipeline to completely destroy our way of life. The truth is, you need a plan. You know it, and I know it. And that's why you should call GoldCo. So you can diversify your savings and investments with gold and silver before things get worse. They're a six-timing 5,000 winner, 2022 Company of the Year with thousands of five-star reviews. And they've helped people like you and me place over $1 billion in gold and silver. They're offering up to $10,000 in free silver while supplies last. And if you call them today, qualified callers will get a free Ronald Reagan half-ounce silver coin. So don't wait. Call GoldCo, 855-412-3806 today. That's 855-412-3806. As I mentioned, we were able to catch up with Michael Schwartz yesterday afternoon after Tuesday's Cam and Company had already been posted online. But shortly after, the San Diego County Supervisors deadlocked on a vote in support of Gavin Newsom's gun control agenda. Take a look and a listen. Michael, thanks so much for coming on Cam and Company. I appreciate you taking the time, man.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we are recording this Wednesday afternoon. This will be airing on Thursday. So you just got out of the San Diego County Supervisors meeting. What happened with this vote on a resolution to support Newsom's gun control constitutional amendment?
Well, yeah, the good news is it failed, which is extremely good. There's a supervisor named Tara Lawson Reamer who's vehemently anti-gun. I don't mean that she just votes the wrong way. I mean, she goes out of her way to be extremely anti-gun. And she brought this forward. It was a resolution to support the 28th Amendment, and it failed 2-2. We actually only have 4 supervisors right now, and there's a special election going on that in this November, in just about a month here. And my fear is that if they bring it back after the election, that this type of resolution would actually probably pass, depending on who gets elected.
Yeah, is this a competitive seat, or is it a Democrat leaner?
Well, unfortunately, it leans very Democrat. But, and in this case, it's a pretty clear, Republican versus Democrat. The Republican is good on guns, the Democrat's not good on guns. But that's not always the case out here in California.
Right.
It's a different world out here. We have some anti-gun Republicans, some pro-gun Democrats. It's rarely this cut and dry.
Yeah, and you've got to, again, the Second Amendment is a nonpartisan right. It's not a right of the right. It is a right of we the people. So any and all allies, I think, are welcome here. But as you say, the concern is that maybe they bring this back. Now, this is a resolution, right? We should make this clear. This has no weight of law, but it would send a signal that, San Diego County Supervisors, they back Newsom's constitutional amendment, which isn't going anywhere, Michael. I mean, this is the other thing here. Like, even if you're a gun control supporter, you have to acknowledge the reality that this isn't going to be adopted by 3/4 of the states. There aren't the votes in Congress to approve this. So why is there this eagerness to embrace the absurd? Is it just to show their fealty and support to Newsom?
So that's a great question. And the reason that we take it just as seriously as any other regulation or anything that there, any kind of, regulation or resolution or any event that any elected body is doing, we take it equally as serious because it's an opportunity for them to get on the news, to get into people's living rooms who maybe aren't paying attention. Maybe they're not anti-gun, maybe they're not pro-gun, they're just kind of living their lives, but they're watching the 6 o'clock news. And you have these extremists, these anti-gun extremists that are coming on their TV, they're in the news, they're in the papers now, and they're making what seems like a very reasonable argument for more gun restrictions, because they're using all the buzzwords, and they're very calm in demeanor, and it sounds rational, it sounds reasonable, but of course they're not telling the whole truth, or telling the truth at all in some cases. So it's important to take everything equally as serious, to make sure that they can't get away with their misleading messaging, and to make sure that on the 6 o'clock news, it's not just them, but it's pro Second Amendment folks as well, pointing out that they're not telling the truth, or what they're doing is actually damaging, and that's why we take it very, very seriously.
As a state, I haven't seen the numbers specifically for San Diego County, but as a state, California kind of bucked the trend last year. FBI reported that violent crime was down nationwide. It was increasing in the state of California, despite, or maybe perhaps because of all these gun control laws on the books. And it seems to me, Michael, that ultimately you've got two arguments, right? The gun control arguments have the public safety argument, right? If we have more gun control laws, we're going to have fewer violent crime. But more recently, I think since the Bruen decision, we're hearing that cultural argument of there's no reason for you to own a gun. Owning a gun itself is wrong. They may still say, I support the Second Amendment, but the buts contain all of these reasons why exercising your Second Amendment right is wrong. Are you seeing that in California, where the public safety argument, I won't say it's taken a back seat, but it's now been joined by just this general guns are bad, the Second Amendment is icky approach that we really haven't seen quite as blatantly in recent past?
Yeah, no, they're absolutely painting guns to be the problem, to be the cause of crime, and they don't hesitate to make gun owners seem like a problem, which is the exact opposite. And what you're saying is true as far as crime statistics being down, violent crime statistics being down. But it's important to point out that it's the statistics that are down. They're no longer arresting, for example, criminals. They're no longer putting them in jail. They're no longer prosecuting them. They're barely reporting them. But the other thing that happened a few years ago is, especially here in San Diego, is we, even before the Bruen decision, got our CCW rights back. So, San Diego, you've been able to get a CCW since about 2017, and we're very proud to have played a major part in that. But then other counties as well have followed suit. Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County. Actually, Orange County kind of led the way, but Southern California and parts of rural California have started to issue even before the Bruen. In fact, the Bruen decision talked about how San Diego was a success story because they started to issue CCWs. And I would definitely make the case that people who are armed are preventing and stopping violent crime from happening. So I think that is a major part of why the statistics are showing that there are fewer violent crimes happening in California. But I think those two things combined tell a little bit clearer of a story of what's going on in California.
Yeah, well, and I mean, this is just anecdotal evidence, but I don't see a whole lot of news reports about major retailers saying, you know what, crime's gotten so bad in San Diego, we're having to close our shops, we're having to pull out of the city. Like you see in San Francisco on a regular basis. San Francisco, of course, didn't issue any concealed carry permits until after the Bruen decision. And even then, it took months for them to do so. I think they're up to like 200 and something now, right? Where San Diego County is up to 15,000 or so last time I checked.
Yeah, 15,000. In 2017, we started out, we had about 1,100. And then once we got the sheriff to change policies and we started educating people on how to get their permit, I just went through the roof. So it went from 1,100 to about 15,000 since 2017. But they're definitely, again, that was a big talking point from the supervisor here, Tara Lawson-Ramer. She was basically saying the guns were the problem. She said that assault weapons, quote unquote, were used in most crimes. She said that this 28th Amendment will preserve the Second Amendment, which I thought was interesting. That was a big part of the statement I made, was that there's no way that the 28th Amendment can be misconstrued as preserving the Second Amendment. It absolutely guts the Second Amendment. And more than once, the two anti-gun politicians up on the dais said that it would preserve the Second Amendment, but they never explained what they meant. And the only thing I can come up with is that they mean that, yeah, the 27 words will still be there,
Right.
but it'll have absolutely no meaning, which is, again, at best, misleading. At worst, a complete and total lie. But yeah, it's all gun owners' fault. Crime is our fault. Everything that California is doing as far as banning guns is good. It was absolutely ridiculous.
And again, as you say, this would preserve the segment the same way the New York's Concealed Carry Improvement Act actually improved the concealed carry laws, right? It did not. I got to commend you and all of the folks with the San Diego gun owners for your activism, because you really are punching above your weight. And we talk about, national groups and state level groups, and then there's, local groups. I'd say you are maybe the most effective, local group in the country right now. Last weekend, in fact, tell me about the gun show that happened in San Diego that wasn't supposed to happen because gun shows were, banned from the fairgrounds. Tell me about this and the symposium that you guys put on.
Well, first, Cam, thanks for the kind words. That means a lot to, we're closing in on 4,000 members, and we have a lot of hardworking activists. And, someone of your stature complimenting us that much is huge to all our members. Really appreciate the kind words. That means a lot.
Yeah.
But the state of California basically outlawed gun shows. They said you couldn't have gun shows on state property, and that's where almost all gun shows were. It was on state property because that's really what's suited for a gun show. You need a big warehouse and a lot of parking, and that it's hard to come by. The only place that's really suited for that are these big regional fairgrounds, that type of thing. So they're outlawed. What we did is we found a private venue, and then the gun show promoter, we helped them advertise. We had to weed through some of the local regulations. The San Diego city attorney is extremely anti-gun as well, and she tried to use this weird local zoning ordinance against us so that we could not have guns at the gun show. And we worked with the police department, and we got an attorney involved to kind of interpret what this zoning thing said, and we worked within the parameters to have this gun show. Now, was it the best gun show in the whole world? Not yet. But it was a really, really good start. We had a lot of people. The other thing we did is we turned it into a symposium. So we said, all right, look, we're not going to be able to feature firearms as much as other gun shows. We'll have the accessories, we'll have ammunition, we'll have some guns. But let's really try to make this thing special. So we included a symposium where we had guest speakers. Our sheriff came and spoke. She got a huge round of applause. We had a panel of elected officials who came and talked about what it's like to be a pro-Second Amendment politician in California. We had instructors come and talk. We had attorneys come and talk. And we turned this thing into a 2-day symposium as well. So as long as you purchased a ticket to come into the gun show, you got access to the symposium as well. And I think we really made this thing special and showed that, we can do this. While we fight to get all of our rights and freedoms back, then we're going to work within the parameters, and we're not going to take no for an answer.
Absolutely. I love that. It's not civil disobedience because, again, you were working within the parameters of the law, but in a way, it is a disobedience to these tyrants who would try to tell you that you can't exercise your rights, and to all those folks who said, well, it's not about shutting down gun shows completely. Baloney. I mean, if the city attorney was trying to make it impossible for you to display guns at a gun show, that's exactly what this is about. And, I've had these conversations with Chuck Michelle before, talking about some of these other gun shows around the state. And he always makes the point that a gun show is not just about commerce. It's about culture. It's about gun owners being able to come together, right? And to embrace their Second Amendment rights, to hear from folks like the ones that you had at your symposium. It's more than just about the commercial transaction of firearms. And you demonstrated that perfectly this past weekend. So thank you again for everything that you guys are doing.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, Michael, listen, I'm going to let you get back on the road because I know you've got somewhere else to be. But listen, man, again, I do truly appreciate you carving out a few minutes. I'd love to have you back again in the very near future. And please, thank you for all of the hard work, for all of your grassroots volunteers, every member. It is making a difference. And I can tell you it's inspiring gun owners all around the country. So please keep it up.
Thank you, Cam. It means a lot.
Well, I do appreciate Michael carving a couple minutes out of his very busy schedule yesterday to talk with us. I'm looking forward to having him back again very soon. And if you are a gun owner in Southern California, San Diego County, or, again, Orange County, Riverside, I'm telling you, this is a great organization. They really are punching above their weight. And, the more the merrier. There is no cap on membership, so I would encourage you to get involved as well. Right now, let's turn our attention to today's Armed Citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report. We'll start there with a story out of Houston, Texas, a tragic story. A Harris County man out on multiple bonds is now accused of murdering a man in front of his parents, actually accused of assaulting the murdered man's father, which is why the murdered man came to his dad's aid. 25-year-old Daniel Abdul-Malik gunned down in front of his parents. Police say 20-year-old Malcolm Lewis is responsible. He came to the family's car lot to buy a vehicle. Daniel's sister, Stephanie Abdul-Malik, says, "My parents are in shambles. Every morning they wake up with the shock of their son being missing. They keep screaming, 'My son is gone. My son is gone. How are we going to live? He's our backbone, our right hand. What are we going to do without him?' Police say that Lewis went to a dealership with a friend, got into an argument with the elder Abdul-Malik. Stephanie Abdul-Malik says, "They knocked down my father. After knocking down my father, my brother was obviously defensive, trying to get them to back off. According to authorities, that's when Malcolm Lewis pulled a gun, fired a shot, killing the 25-year-old. Stephanie Abdul-Malik says, "I don't even know how I'm standing here in front of you right now." Last year, according to Fox 26, Malcolm Lewis got probation for a felony conviction in the 177th District Court. I don't know what that conviction was for, but it was a felony. Again, he received probation. A few months later, he's charged with another felony. This one, a count of aggravated robbery. That led to a motion to revoke his probation. Again, one of the terms of your probation is, right, you stay out of trouble. If you are arrested again, if you are charged with another crime, we will revoke your probation. We will send you to prison. You'll have to do the original sentence. That's the way it's supposed to work. It's not the way it worked in Harris County. Instead, 177th Criminal District Court Judge Robert Johnson set Malcolm Lewis's bond at $40,000. Typically, if you use a bail bondsman or something like that, you're responsible for coming up with 10% of that. So $4,000 got Malcolm Lewis out of jail. Andy Cahan with Crime Stoppers in Harris County says, "How do you give a bond to somebody who's on probation and then charged with robbery when you're trying to get that probation revoked?" Now you've got a 25-year-old that basically paid the price for those decisions because he lost his life. That's absolutely right. There are a lot of questions here surrounding the decision to release Malcolm Lewis on such a low bond. But I don't know that we're ever going to get the answers from the judge there in Harris County. Today's Armed Citizen story from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where police say a suspect was shot and killed during an armed robbery. A second suspect has been arrested and is now facing charges in the death of his accomplice. According to the Winston-Salem Police Department, this happened back on October the 6th. Investigators say 40-year-old Stephen Wayne Wire and 44-year-old Jeffrey Howard Smith entered a home that did not belong to them and robbed the individuals inside at gunpoint. Police say one of the individuals inside that home had a gun of their own, drew that gun, fired in self-defense, and shot Stephen Wayne Weir. Police said that Weir later died of his injuries. Police say that Smith was arrested, charged with robbery with a dangerous weapon. And this is amazing. We just talked about the $40,000 bond. Smith, charged again with robbery with a dangerous weapon. I erroneously said that he was facing charges in connection with the death of his accomplice. Apparently he's not. He received just a $7,500 bond. I am shocked. I just blithely assumed, erroneously, that Because in many cases, individuals who are in the commission of a violent crime, when their accomplice is shot and killed, they face murder charges. Not the case here. In fact, honestly, the $7,500 bond for Smith is outrageously low, given the charge of robbery with a dangerous weapon. Given the circumstances of this case, that is a ridiculously low bond. So we'll definitely be keeping our eyes on this story. A homeowner in question, not expected to face any charges. Again, police say he was acting in self-defense, but good God, the intruder who survived this encounter, he's going to be back on the streets before long. You hope he's learned his lesson. You hope he's going to stick to the straight and narrow, but I'm not confident of that. Are you? Finally today, our good deed of the day, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. Another armed citizen who was not present to stop a homicide from taking place, but was on scene in time to stop the suspect from going anywhere. Here's the headline. Man accused of shooting girlfriend to death in front of their kids, held at gunpoint by Good Samaritan until cops arrive. This is, again, a tragic story. I'm glad that there is a suspect in custody, and that might not be the case were it not, again, for the quick thinking and the fast action of that armed citizen. Jefferson County Sheriff's Office called around noon on Monday to a home in Birmingham, Alabama, on reports of a shooting. Witnesses told deputies that the suspect, a 48-year-old named Ernal Peavy, shot his girlfriend, 37-year-old April Britton, in the backyard of the home in front of their kids, who then ran away and flagged down a passing vehicle. The individual who was flagged down said that she and her husband were driving when they saw two teenage girls waving them down. She got out of the car. One of the girls said their mom had just been shot, so she calls 911. Meanwhile, Peavy shows up in his car, and the girls say, that's the man who shot my mama. The witness's husband, who's sitting there in the passenger seat, then pulls his gun, holds Peavy at gunpoint until police arrived. Peavy taken to the Jefferson County Jail on a capital murder charge. He's being held without bond. Britton's sister, Jaleesa Britton, said April was one of the most kind and sweet souls. She was first and foremost a loving mother to her three children, a caring sister, a loyal friend to all who knew her. She leaves behind three kids, 20, 17, 13 years of age. Sister wrote on the GoFundMe page, she was beloved and will forever be loved despite no longer being with us. And again, I know that it is small comfort that the armed citizen was not there and did not have an opportunity to stop this attack from occurring. But at least, the very least, the suspect will now hopefully face justice as a result of that armed citizen being in the right place at the right time. Frankly, not only being able to hold this suspect until police arrive, but God knows what would have happened. This suspect is accused of just killing his girlfriend. Her two daughters are right there. What would have happened had that armed citizen not been there to protect them as well? Instead of one tragic homicide, we could be talking about three or more. So again, in the right place, at the right time, willing and able to do the right thing. That anonymous Good Samaritan, an armed citizen there in Birmingham, Alabama. Now that is going to do it for this edition of Bearing Arms Cam & Company. I do want to thank you for being a part of the program as always. I am looking forward to being back with you again tomorrow as we do one final show for the week. Not, of course, the last Second Amendment story we'll be covering. We do this every day at bearingarms.com, including Saturdays and Sundays. So make sure you head to the website, check it out for all of the latest Second Amendment news and information. If you like what you see, I'd encourage you to become a VIP or VIP Gold member as well. All you have to do, go to bearingarms.com/subscribe, use the promo code GUNRIGHTS, and not only will you be supporting the independent pro-Second Amendment journalism that we do at Bearing Arms, but we're going to give you exclusive content, news stories, analysis you won't get anywhere else, because your support really does matter, and it makes a difference. So thank you again. Enjoy the rest of your Hump Day Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Until then, be well, be safe, and be free.